nobody deserves more than Danny to be helped in the wonderful work he's doing, in the help that he is giving so many people, in the work he is doing to help to make people happier and healthier. And I'm very, very humble and very delighted to be able to have helped him a little bit on this wonderful road he has chosen. But all of it really comes back to my father, Dr. Max Gerson. While I have been privileged to carry on his work, whatever we are talking about, whatever I'm doing, is based on his ideas, on his work. I see a lot of young faces here today, and I love it. It's wonderful that the young people are learning what it really takes to be well, that you don't have to wait till you are reaching middle age or even a little more than that, and are aching and hurting and are uncomfortable, that you start to look around for other ways of doing things. But we have young people here who are beginning to learn and understand that in order to be well, you have to take care of your body. My father was a doctor. He was trained like any other doctor. And he was trained similarly as you are being brainwashed nowadays. For each ill, a pill. That's not the way to heal. Yes, pills can sometimes alleviate pain, and pills can sometimes kill germs or viruses, and pills can do certain things, but they do not heal. And Dr. Gerson had one difference from other doctors. He had very severe migraine headaches. When he was done with internship and residency, he was very, very uncomfortable, sometimes 2 and 3 days a week. He was lying in a darkened room with half-sided headaches and nausea and sensitive to light. He had to be in a darkened room and noise, and he was miserable. And he asked his professors and his teachers, "What can I do?" He was frankly not willing to live that way. And the doctors and professors and teachers told him, "Look, just look it up in the books. You know that migraines are incurable, and just learn to live with it." You still hear that today. Learn to live with it. And then they told him, "When you get to be 55, you'll feel better." "But I'm 25. And he decided he wasn't going to wait. And he decided he had to find a way. If there was no way already charted, he had to find one. And he set out to find it. It wasn't easy. He consulted professors and teachers and university clinics and specialists and whatever he could find. He subscribed to journals, to foreign journals. He had them translated. He learned and studied and studied and learned until one day, and it took a lot of time, he ran across one article where apparently a woman had been writing in a little bit of an obscure journal that when she changed her diet, her migraine headaches improved. Diet? He hadn't heard anything about diet. Remember, he was born in 1881, and his medical training took place in about the first decade of the 20th century, about 1902 and 3 or 4 until 1908 or 10, something like that. But since nobody else had any ideas, he thought, well, we'll try with nutrition. We'll try with diet. He thought, well, there's a possibility that maybe somebody could be allergic or something like that, and changing your diet could have an effect. Well, he changed his diet. And he changed his diet largely to fresh vegetables and fruit. And he was well. For the first time in a long time, week, 2 weeks, he was well. And then he started to add one thing or another. And if whatever he added didn't agree with him, he could be sick within 20 minutes and have a migraine. All right. So, after a while, he developed what he called, and what he convinced he was convinced, his migraine diet. And sometime later, when he settled in his own practice, he prescribed this diet to patients who came in and complained of migraines. And he told them frankly, there's nothing about it written in the book. You won't find it anywhere. But this is what I'm doing. And you might as well try, because the books say there's nothing they know how to do. And invariably the people would come back and say, look, Dr. Gerson, if I'm sticking to your migraine diet, I'm fine. If I cheat, I get sick. All right. Until one day, a patient came in complaining of migraine, and he was put on the migraine diet, and he came back about a month later, and he said, Dr. Gerson, my migraines are gone. I'm fine. But I also had skin tuberculosis, and that's healed. So Dr. Gerson said, no, that's a different disease. Must have been something else. No, he pulled out paper from his pocket, diagnosed by pharmaceutical company and by pharmacists and doctors. Tubercle bacilli were found in his lesions in his arm and face. I remember when I was a little girl, this goes way back, I remember people coming into my father's clinic, my father's office, which was partly in his home, and people that had part of the nose missing, that had an ear missing, because the tuberculosis would eat it away. And he couldn't understand the connection between migraines and skin tuberculosis. That's a germ disease. So he said to the man, hey, it's rather rare disease. And my single reads internal and nerve disease. This is an external disease. Do you know others who have the problem? Oh, sure. Where I was in the hospital, the guy says, there were a lot of my friends, they all had the same problem. My father said, send me several. I'll treat them free of charge. I just want to know. He was a true scientist. He was a healer. He wanted to know if it was possible to heal. Other patients came only with skin tuberculosis, no migraine. And they were put on the migraine diet. And they recovered. And my father still couldn't understand. But this came to the famous tuberculosis specialist in Europe by the name of Sauerbruck, Ferdinand Sauerbruck. He was a lung tuberculosis specialist, and he specialized in surgeries and compression of the lung and various things like that. But some patients of my father's that had been cured of skin tuberculosis went to him and said, look, this is what Gerson is doing. And he called Gerson to his place because he was a big professor. And Gerson was just a little country doctor. So my father had to sit on the train, and in those days there was no flying, for 8 hours and travel to Munich. And sure enough, Sauerbruck started the Gerson therapy, and he said, okay, we'll test it out on patients, and if only one of them can stop the lesions from growing, with this diet, I'll believe every word you say. So he put together 450 seriously advanced skin tuberculosis patients with large lesions, pieces missing, and so on, and put them on the Gerson therapy, 450, of which 446 recovered. That came to the ears of the university in Berlin, and they wanted to test this out because my father said this to himself. He didn't dare publicize this yet. If any form of tuberculosis will heal, why not all forms? There's skin tuberculosis, bone tuberculosis, and lung tuberculosis, and kidney TB, and so on. Why not all of them? And he started to treat others. And they too recovered. So the university clinic wanted to know and invited him to Berlin. And he started to work at the university clinic in Berlin. And another private clinic also. So he had several places in Berlin with tuberculosis patients. And that's when it happened. What happened was this. Many of those patients, if not all of them, had other problems besides their TB. Besides their lung tuberculosis, some had kidney disease, some had allergies, some had asthma, some had high blood pressure or low blood pressure. They had all kinds of other problems. And all the problems disappeared. That's when Dr. Gerson realized that he is no longer treating a disease. He is now helping the body to restore his immune system, enzyme system, hormone system, mineral balances. He is restoring the body's ability to heal itself. And that's the big difference. That's where the big difference came in. It was not a pill for every ill. That all you people are learning now isn't working. As a matter of fact, all the pills that Orthodox medicine is prescribing all have horrible side effects. Do you listen sometimes to the side effects on TV, on the ads? Between liver damage and kidney trouble and death? And yes, the drugs that are used nowadays in medical treatment, correctly prescribed, correctly given, in correct diet, are the number one killers of the American people.
Hold this close to your mouth and project.
Can you hear me better now? Sorry. Thank you. So now he had a treatment that helped the body's systems, that helped the body, because all of us are born with an immune system. All of us are born with the ability to heal. You fall, you hurt yourself, you hurt your knee, it heals. You get hurt, fall down a step or something, you break a bone, God forbid, it's set, it heals. Or you're ironing some clothes and you burn yourself on the iron and it hurts and it heals. The body is equipped with a healing mechanism, everybody. But this healing mechanism is made up of the various units of the body that are involved in this healing. And I repeat, the enzyme system, the hormone system, the mineral balances, the essential organ systems, the liver, the brain, the pancreas, etc. All of the body is involved of maintaining health and healing capability. And now I'm going to tell you something that maybe you can't believe. When all those systems work, when the immune system, enzyme system, hormone, and all the organ systems work correctly, cancer is impossible, as are other diseases. You cannot develop a disease if you have all your defenses in order. In other words, And this is the big thing. You have to learn and know and understand what it takes to keep those systems in order. All right? Now you think, when a doctor tells you, and people are so brainwashed, they're so misunderstanding of the real truth. When a doctor tells you, you need more protein, what do you think of immediately? Meat, steak, fish, chicken, eggs, right? Protein. Wrong. That's not the protein for the human body. It just so happens that the human body is largely designed as a vegetarian unit. We are not designed to digest meat and fish and chicken and eggs and milk and all of that. Our teeth are the teeth, grinding teeth of vegetarians. They're not the teeth of meat-eating animals, the tearing teeth. Our stomach has only about 1/7 the stomach acid of the normal stomach acid that you need in order to digest meat. In other words, your stomach doesn't properly digest meat. Furthermore, you need also for meat digestion, you need pancreatic enzymes. But the pancreatic enzymes are not adequate to digest eggs for breakfast and maybe a hot dog for lunch and maybe a roast chicken for dinner, meat, animal proteins after animal proteins. We just don't have that kind of a pancreas. It is incapable of doing that. And then it sends this putrefying material that it cannot properly digest into an intestinal tract that is too long. We have the long intestinal tract of the vegetarian. The meat eaters have a short tract, so that when that meat putrefies, it travels quickly through the intestinal tract. They get rid of it, and it doesn't poison them. It doesn't happen in our bodies. We have the long intestinal tract to draw all the nutrients out of the fibers in vegetables and fruit. It's more difficult. But that's how we are designed. But when the meat goes in there and the putrefying materials, besides, we are not eating fresh meat. We are eating rotten meat. You call it aged, right? What does it mean, aged? How old is it? 3-4 weeks. It goes to rigor mortis. Hey, it's rotten. And that's supposed to be healthy? It isn't healthy. It's supposed to build you up. It's supposed to give you a restoring immune system. It's supposed to keep you healthy. It doesn't do that. That's why people are sick. But that's not all. And my father found it went much further. Because, first of all, we are not designed to digest animal proteins. That's number one, as I just explained. But nowadays, it's much, much, much worse. Because our plants, even if you are a vegetarian, our plants grow in the soil that's pesticide treated and fungicide treated and chemically fertilized. That's not what the soil needs. So bugs attack it. And when the bugs attack it, the farmers are losing their crops, and they come to the chemical companies, we're losing our crops. They're only too happy to sell them fungicides and pesticides and chemicals to kill those bugs that are destroying your food. The fact that they kill you too, they don't tell you. All right? So you can't do that. You can't do that. The important thing, thank you. The important, interesting thing is this. Usually, children, even though they're badly nourished, they're terribly poorly nourished, with canned, jarred baby food, they get nothing fresh. We were talking to some people once about the fresh food for babies. Well, what is there besides canned baby food? They never even heard of fresh foods for babies. Excuse me, but let's say about 150 years ago, there was no canned baby foods. So what did they eat? Fresh, living foods. The same that the mother ate. Sometimes she pre-shoed it, similar to the animals in nature. But they were healthier. Nowadays, and this isn't very long ago, cancer was the #1 killer disease of children under 17. Today, it's the #1 killer. Because in those days it was killer disease and the #1 killer was accidents. Our children now die of cancer. That's not acceptable. Canned jarred baby foods and fun foods. What are fun foods? Hot dogs. Anybody can give me just 2 nutrients in a white roll with a hot dog with mustard on it and chased down by a cup of Coca-Cola. Just 2 enzymes or minerals or vitamins or nutrients or anything of nutrition for the human body. I give you $10. But that's the fun food. That's where the kids want to go, to McDonald's for the fun food. Don't do that. Give them fresh food, living food. Oh yes, but there's something else nowadays too. You have something better. I've seen it. I've seen a lady, she was very happily consuming a vegetarian meal. It consisted of a plate of white pasta, and it was sort of doused with canned tomato juice. And then she had a Coca-Cola to chase it down. And for dessert, a 7-layer cake. It's all vegetarian. And then she popped a pill for her vitamins. And she's convinced she's getting her nutrition. It's unacceptable. Think. You can't do that. And if you don't maintain your immune system, the immune system needs vitamins, minerals, enzymes like the rest of your body. The immune system is all over the body. It's based in the bone marrow and the white blood cells. It's based in the liver, in the pancreas. It's all over your system. It maintains your well-being. It kills germs and viruses. So you don't have to worry about pesticides nor about antibiotics. Antibiotics are wonderful. They can save lives. I don't argue that. But if for every infections you use antibiotics, you weaken and poison your immune system more and more, and eventually it doesn't work anymore. For instance, in the Scientific American, I read an article about children's diabetes. Children's diabetes. Why do children have diabetes? Well, apparently, and I've met such children, sometimes you have a baby, you have a child, grows up to be about 3 or 4 years old, has a cold, and sniffly and is uncomfortable, and you, like a good mother, you take the child to the doctor, and the doctor gives the child some antibiotics, and within about a week or so the cold is pretty much under control and all is okay. And then maybe in 4 years old he starts to go into, with other children, into kindergarten or something like that, and catches another cold. And this time now, they get another antibiotic. And again, the disease is under control. But from then on, it starts to take less and less time. Instead of taking a year or a year and a quarter, now the next cold comes maybe in 6 months, and the next one in 3 months. And each time, the immune system is weakened more, and the germs are tougher. And eventually, the child has a cold that turns into a flu and that doesn't go away. And it lasts, and it lasts, and the flu lasts, and the fever lasts, and the child is miserable and is crying and unhappy, and the parents and everybody is unhappy and miserable. And eventually, slowly, the child recovers. Then it turns out that he is diabetic. It wasn't a cold. It was a pancreatitis. But the child has no defenses against colds, because for every cold he got antibiotics. He didn't get nutrition. He didn't get carrot juice to build up the immune system. He didn't get fresh enzymes and to help, to restore the body. He was getting pills to kill the germs, but it also poisons the body because all the pills have side effects, bad, damaging side effects. No exception. And that's where disease comes from. We are not giving our bodies the chance to heal, even though the body is designed to do that. And we have to learn to do it. So how do we do it? Well, Dr. Gerson, he found out when he was trying to heal the lung tuberculosis that the other diseases also healed. Eventually it turned out that arthritis healed, that fibromyalgia healed, that Crohn's disease healed, that high blood pressure would go away, that clogged arteries, you could unclog them, the body would generate enzymes and get rid of the clotting, and it would work again. The hormones and the thyroid, as well as the calcium and everything, was back in balance, so that the body was dissolving the deposits of plaque on its own, without the doctor's drugs that are extremely damaging and dangerous. Where the body can, will, and does dissolve the plaque, and the high blood pressure goes away. By the way, a lot of people don't know, and this is something important that men would have to know, that the blood pressure medication, yes, it does help to reduce blood pressure, which is very nice, but it's not good. But it also interferes with erections, because the same blood pressure is needed. And when you can normally get rid of high blood pressure and plaque in the arteries, simply because your immune system, your enzyme system is working again, and you are not clotting and blocking all your arteries, you function again. Without drugs, without hormones, without doctors. Oh yes, and then the doctors tell you, oh, you don't really need to bother with organic food. It's expensive. Yes. Have you tried how much surgery for heart disease or high blood pressure costs? Do you know how much surgery for cancer costs? You know, I have canceled my health insurance since I was 34 years old. Most of you know that I'm 90, okay? But I'm well. All right. So I canceled my health insurance. Do you know how much money I saved? But that's not all. I'm well. I didn't land in the hospital. I didn't need a doctor. I don't have a doctor to date. I'm not on hormones. I'm functioning. I'm eating well, fresh, living, organic food, unsalted, because salt interferes with health. I'm sorry to have to tell you that. It's important that you know, please, that I was born into a salt-free home. Never eat salt, carefully avoid it. Never eat foods that have been prepared with salt, that have sodium on a label. Forget food labels anyway. Fresh living apples and fruit and carrots and greens and salads, fresh living, doesn't have any labels. It's the labels that are the trouble. You sometimes try to read some of those labels? Can you read that Latin stuff? And even if you can read it, do you know what it is? Do you know what it does to you? You shouldn't have to read labels. One time I was writing a little article about hot dogs. I never buy hot dogs, never had one. So I never have a label. I've never looked at a label on a hot dog. I went into a store and looked at one. Oh my God, long list of stuff like that. And preservatives and dyes and I don't know, all the stuff that was in there, and flavor agents and salt and MSG and goodness knows. I said, that's what children eat for lunch? So what are mothers going to give them for their lunch? So I looked for sliced meat, maybe, pastrami. Same exact stuff as is in the hot dogs. It's not good. It's poison. It's preservative. It's dyes. It's chemicals. It's bad for you. Don't eat it. I don't touch it. The result, I'm well. And I saved a lot of money from canceling my health insurance. Well over $100,000. You can buy a lot of organic food for $100,000. Okay? And be well. Not land in the hospital. And I didn't lose any time at work either. And I feel good. It bothers me when I read about children or young people who are depressed. What's depression? What's depression? The brain, everything that happens, your feelings, your ideas, your vision, your production, everything you do with your brain tissue. You need your brain to work, your speech. Everything, you need your brain to work.
There you go.
Thank you. My brain wasn't working. But if you have your kid at McDonald's and they're not getting vitamins, minerals, enzymes, or proper nutrients, even for your brain cells, they're going to get depressed because the brain cells are depressed. It's very simple. The depressions disappear like in a matter of days, not with dangerous drugs. It's a terrible thing that they drug children. And the Gardasil, and it goes on and on and on between the drugging and the vaccines and all of that. And the FDA is trying to tell us that it's healthy. The FDA is actually saying that it's safe to use vaccines with thimerosal, which is mercury. In Europe, they have long found out that mercury is extremely damaging and dangerous, and they absolutely block any vaccines that come from the United States. But we buy them. And our FDA, the Fraud and Death Administration, They tell us it's safe. They tell us it's safe for children, for mothers, for pregnant mothers. It's not. It's deadly. Mercury is one of the most poisonous substances in the earth. And we give it to the kids. By the way, even if they do force you to take vaccine, they don't help. They don't keep you from disease. They don't do anything except damage and poison you. Don't do it. Now, there's no real laws, and if they try to intimidate you, in most states, you can fight vaccination of children. It's not true that they won't admit children in school. It's not true, and it's not legal. So fight. Don't let this go and happen to your children. And you know, I have read a report from a doctor who was running one of the largest pediatric hospitals in the Chicago area, in an area where people were struggling financially and they were not too well off, and a lot of those children did not get vaccinated. And the medical doctor, the head of the hospital, clearly said, unvaccinated children have no autism. You want to risk autism for your children? That's a lifetime problem. Plus, the vaccines don't work. They don't help. The vaccine you are getting today may be for a flu that was making the rounds 2 years ago. They're doing a thing for you, except make money for the big pharmaceutical companies. Don't do that. Okay? There's lots more to tell you, and I'm afraid I don't have all that much time. But I'd like to also go back and tell you, well, the Gerson therapy is not only helpful in arthritis and in depression. It's what about bipolar disease? There are chemicals in the brain that disturb. What about some of the other mental problems? It's not mental, it's physical. It's the brain tissue. Nourish the brain correctly, detoxify. Okay, now you want to know what we really do. The Gerson therapy, first of all, consists of fresh, living, organic, vegetarian foods. Meaning, nothing out of a can, a jar, a bottle, a preserved, a box food, a frozen food, or anything like that. Now you're going to say, well, that makes a lot of work. Yes. That's the one serious disadvantage of the Gerson therapy. It's work. Yes. You have to fix and clean fresh food, grind it up and press it and make juice. But it means all the difference. And especially juicing is so important. Why is juice so important? Because we see, at the Gerson Hospital, we see almost exclusively, terminally ill patients, largely cancer patients, terminally ill, sent home by the doctors. Sent home, and men are told, get your affairs in order, take care of your family. And the women are told, take care of the kids and so on. And the heads of families, young people, 30s, 40s, 50s, they die of cancer. It's terrifying. It's bad. And it's unnecessary. Okay? So, between the vegetarian organic food, these people come and they're in terminal condition and they're very ill and they're depressed and they're miserable. They can't, if they're deficient in nutrients and toxic, you can't have them eat 3 nice full vegetarian meals and fruit and so on. They just can't get it. They can't get it all down. But juice. They can drink a glass of fresh juice every hour. And that's actually one of the foods, not the only food we give them. The fresh, organic, vegetarian food, freshly ground, freshly pressed, and immediately served. Not canned and jarred and bottled and preserved, but immediately served, fresh, living. Those nutrients go into the tissues, they go into the cells, they go into the organ systems, because that's what belongs there. But because they belong there, they now are able to push out the toxins that have accumulated there over the dozens of years. That's for people who lived more than 1 dozen of years. They're there. The poisons are there. If you've gone in a restaurant, you've eaten them. If you bought in Vons or any of the big stores, you bought them. More than 5,000 foods contain aspartame, the poison sugar. Don't eat anything that has artificial sugar in it. It's extremely dangerous, very toxic. And don't eat salt. Our good Lord did not make our bodies so that we needed somebody to manufacture salt. We do not need salt. I was born into a salt-free home. I never eat salt. Carefully avoid any food that's canned, jarred, pickled, preserved, bottled, or so that has salt in it in the processing. I eat fresh, living, no salt. So I have no diabetes, I have no salt, I have no swollen limbs, ankles, or all of those things. I don't have them. Nor do I have migraine headaches. I had migraine headaches when I was 8 years old. Inherited from my father, who had it from his mother. And if I drank milk, I got a migraine. So I knew pretty quickly what I could handle and what I couldn't handle, what I shouldn't eat. It was very simple. I never have a headache now because I know exactly what causes it. I have a wonderful book. I like the book especially because it has a marvelous title. The basic thing in the title. The title of that book is so simple but so correct. It's called The Cure is in the Cause. You've got to know what the cause is. The cause of cancer, deficiency and toxicity. The cause of arthritis, deficiency and toxicity. The cause of heart disease or fibromyalgia. The cause of kidney disease. The cause of brain problems, of so-called mental diseases, and so on. Deficiency and toxicity. And if that's the cause, you got to detoxify. And we use two things for detoxifying. Vast amounts of fresh juice. Can you believe that we use roughly 12 or 13 8-ounce glasses a day for the patients, one every hour, freshly made? They can handle 12 glasses of juice. You know what that means? It means 17 pounds worth of fresh food. When did anybody ever eat 17 pounds worth of fresh food? And especially a terminally ill cancer patient, they can't. But they can drink the juice. And it does the job. And it forces the poisons out of the tissues. But then what happens? That poison system goes into the bloodstream, and it circulates in the blood, and it goes, among other things, through the liver. All your blood circulates through the liver once every 3 minutes. And the liver gives it what you need. All the enzymes, minerals, vitamins, everything that goes on in the body begins and ends in the liver. The liver is the key organ, the key biochemical organ. But when the body gets rid of poisons, it has to be filtered out by the liver. If you don't help the liver get rid of it, you damage the liver. You can't do that. So Dr. Gerson found that out too. And that's one of his greatest contributions. He said, you got to detoxify the body. And as usual, he found that already doctors had used something, and the nurses had added something, and it was the coffee enema. And the caffeine, as it turned out later, was examined by two professors at the University of Göttingen. As it turns out, the caffeine rectally, it's not from drinking it, it's the opposite. Rectally administered, the caffeine goes into the portal system, travels to the liver and bile ducts, opens these ducts, and allows the chemicals to release, to go out through the colon and go out through the feces. And that's the detoxifying. And it gets rid of pain and of swellings, of inflammation. It gets rid of disease. It gets rid of depression. It gets rid of what troubles so many people, including children. You must detoxify. People never hesitate to take pills, they're poison. There are no medical pills that are not toxic. Doesn't exist, not one, that doesn't do damage to the liver. Then people do not hesitate at all to take that. But when it comes to detoxing, to cleansing the liver and the whole system, no. My son has a lovely wife who is a massage therapist, and she had a lady, a customer living up the road. And the lady was well-to-do, and she came in every week, and she got her massage. She was very happy. Once in a while, she would complain of migraine headache. So my daughter-in-law finally broke down, took her courage in her two hands, and says, would you really like to know how to get rid of a migraine? Oh yes, what can I do? What can I take? Hey, first thing, what do I take? What drug? So my daughter-in-law says, coffee enemas. Oh, don't tell me things like that. That's disgusting. All right. Okay, suffer. All right. It was quite a while later, I believe it was something close to 2 years later, that one day she came for her massage, this lady, and she says, I am so miserable. I have had migraine now for 3 or 4 days and it isn't going away. And I've taken all these pills and it doesn't help and I'm suffering and I don't know what to do. I'm so miserable. Can you help me? So my daughter-in-law says, you sure you want me to help you? Yes, anything. Anything? Yeah. So my daughter-in-law sets her up at home with a coffee enema. She has some coffee concentrate. She sets her up at home and leaves her to her devices. And sure enough, half an hour later, she calls, oh, thank you so much, the migraine's gone. Half an hour later, the migraine's gone. The toxicity relieved with the coffee enema. And it's all a toxic spasming that caused the migraine in the first place. But what doctor knows that or believes it? But the cure is in the cause. Very intelligent, absolutely true. I'd like to talk to you more about that tomorrow. Because it's so interesting, there's so much fascinating stuff around, and it's not difficult, by the way. If you really know what you're talking about, you can talk it in simple enough language so that people can understand. And if doctors or scientists use fancy words and fancy languages that nobody can really understand, frankly, they don't know what they're talking about. I have a book at home. It's a big book, like 1,500 pages with 3 columns. And it's a physician's desk reference guide. And it has all these chronic degenerative disease in it described. And referring back to that book with that wonderful title I like, I looked up, for instance, in that book, it tells a doctor what a migraine is and where it comes from and how you treat it and what drugs are available and what the prognosis is and what will happen and so on and so forth. So I look up migraine. What does it say? The underlying problem is poorly understood. Means we have no idea what it's all about. All right? And then I look up, for instance, lupus. Lupus vulgaris is very simple to cure. And don't let others tell you it's incurable. It's not true. If they tell you it's incurable, don't argue. Just tell yourself, yes, doctor, incurable with your methods. But if you do it right, curable. Okay, so you look up lupus, and it's a very complex situation that is not clear, is unclear. Another one, we don't know. We don't know anything about it. But they treat it. Do they cure it? No way. That's the problem. No way. They treat it with prednisone, and they stimulate the body to activate its immune system a little, but they're not healing. Healing is restoring the body so it can work on its own, that it can take care of the disease, and it will do that. Do it. You can do it. You can learn how to do it. It's in the books. It's very carefully described in detail, and anybody can do it at home. People are dying to learn and know and understand. My book has now been translated into 12 languages. It's distributed all over the world. People want it. They're looking for help. They know their doctors aren't helping them. Yeah, they're giving them drugs, but they're not helping. They're getting worse and worse. And they're looking for help. They're looking for healing, true healing. And it is available. Just learn how. And all the information is there for you. And my wonderful, brilliant father put it together. And I humbly put it out and have adjusted it somewhat, because our Fraud and Death Administration has blocked some of the nutrients, has blocked some of the medications, and has caused some changes that we had to adjust. But it still works. And people still get well from chronic, degenerative, deadly diseases, including cancer, and from pain. There are pain clinics. Pain clinics. There are people that are suffering long-term from pain. That's ridiculous. I don't have pain. Why should I have pain? I'm 90 years old. I don't have arthritis, or I don't have any problem. One shouldn't have any problem. If you nourish your body right and detoxify it properly, you're not going to hurt. You're going to be well. And that's what we are preaching. And you can do it. And if there are nurses or doctors among you, you can learn how to do it and help others. The Gerson Institute runs, it's very interesting. They run a course originally for 4 or 5 people who wanted to learn how to take care of their cancer patient at home, how to make the juices, how to prepare the food, how to do the enemas and all of that. So we taught them and trained them. So the first session we had 4 people. The second session we had 11 people. The third session we had 28 people. The other day we just had 92 people and 100 additional ones on the TV, on the radio. People want to know. Thank you. People want to know. They understand that doctors drug them, suppress problems, suppress symptoms, but do not cure. And the Gerson therapy cures. Thank you.
Make sure to order your copies of Danny Vieira's new health booklets available for Modern Manna. To place your order, contact us at 800-655-FACT, F-A-C-T, or online at modernmanna.org.